To begin our graffiti word on brick project, I'm going to be giving you a couple different colors of paint to dip a sponge into. And then you're going to take that sponge and you're going to stamp a brick shape onto the paper. Now, bricks are laid in a horizontal line, which is what I'm making now, but there is a little bit of space in between each brick. So I want you to leave a little bit of space in between each stamp that you make. And if it goes off the page, that's great. You're going to have a messy mat underneath you to pick up that paint. When you go for the row, the next row, you want to be sure that your bricks are not lining up directly on top of each other, but that the center of the brick below actually falls into that space in between the bricks above it. So if you look at the visual on the screen, I think it's a better explanation. So be careful now to keep your distance away from the brick row that's above the new bricks that you're stamping. You want to keep some space in between the rows, the horizontal rows, but you also want to keep space in between each brick, and you want to be sure that you're getting this alternating pattern. Now you're going to see here in just a second that my pattern starts to, right there, my pattern is not working out. So what I did right there is I skipped a brick, I lined it up, and then I just kind of extended each of those bricks a little bit to help it kind of get back in line the way it should be. Somehow I got off. So you can creatively problem solve like that. And then I dipped it in a color and I got that black and I was like, oh, that was unexpected. So now I'm just kind of dabbing that color around, and bricks are kind of like that. They're not all uniform. So this is the whole paper completed. And this is going to be the background. We're going to let that dry. So this paper that I'm working on now actually is dry, and I'm making a solution of very, very diluted black paint. And I am just patting, using the sponge to pat that paint on the white spaces in between the bricks. So bricks have a mortar, like a concrete, that goes in between to kind of hold those or bind those bricks together. And it's not pure white. So you can see the difference between the pure white spaces and that diluted black paint that I'm using. And it really helps to give it some dimension. So you're just going to, don't rub it because you'll rub your brick paint off. Just kind of pat it in to all of those white spaces. And every now and then, if you want to use a paper towel to kind of blot up some of that excess paint, then that's a good idea. So that is your background. The next step is we're going to get a sheet of paper. We're going to figure out the size, how big you want your word to be. And we'll talk in class about what this word is going to be. You want to sketch that word in pencil first. You want to give it like some bubble letters or block letters or a graffiti kind of style of lettering that you like. So I'm going to use the word faith. That could be a name. And we also know that, you know, it's a word that means a lot to us as a Christian. So I'm thickening up the lines there, and we're going to use a Sharpie for that. Then I want to outline like a space around those letters. Just leave a little bit of space. I'm using just a pencil to kind of guide myself. You could just go for it with scissors if you, well, don't do the scissors because we want to do oil pastels first. I forgot. So you're going to choose a basic color of oil pastel. We're going to use a white to kind of tint or lighten up that color. And then I wanted to kind of deepen my blue a little bit also, so I chose to add a little bit of purple. But experiment yourself with some colors on a scrap piece of paper until you decide what color combination you want to use. So I'm trying to go for like ombre, kind of like it's darker at the top and then it gets lighter at the bottom. Mostly though, you're seeing a shade of blue that is darker and then goes lighter. That white helps to tint it, and the purple, I think, feels like it just adds a little bit of richness or darkness to the color. You can always go back and add, you know, play around with those colors, build up the layers. Then we want to cut it out. And if you look at the cut here that I did, compare it to the next picture that you're going to see. I cut off some of that green because I didn't want it to be like perfectly around it. You're going to do it how you like to do it. We're going to glue that word onto your paper however you want it to go. Then we're going to be using some black oil pastels to add some shadow, some shading. You see, sometimes I go on the brick background, and sometimes I'm actually going on that green paper and covering up some of that green. So I'm just kind of playing around with what I feel like looks good. We're going to smudge it in with our fingers. So the reason I have that green paper behind it, showing behind it, is I want it to kind of look like maybe I used some spray paint and I used a couple of different colors. So my green paper serves as the green, and then my blue oil pastels, you know, show up as the blue. I am now trying to make it look like the paint is kind of dripping down. Maybe it's freshly spray painted on the wall and it's dripping. So I put down some white first. So I'm going right off of that cutout that I glued on directly onto the background. Put in a highlight of white, and then I'm adding some black kind of shadow around it. And the same thing right here. I put down white first, putting in some blue, adding a little highlighting, softening up in some spaces, doing a little shadow, and then go back up and touch it up with some blue. You can touch it up as much as you want, and this is the look.